Mike Bohn here in Montreal with Ian Machado Garry, who is the backup for UFC 315. Ian, you're loving life. I don't think I've ever seen anyone enjoy this backup position more than you are these past few days.
Yeah, but it's a whole show. It's an excitement. The whole reason I wanted to be here was an opportunity. You know, we've seen fights fall through. We've seen, like, recently 3 months ago, Arman Sarukian and Islam. This happens. Do you know what I mean? For me, mentally, I'm focused on being able to step in and being there. But realistically, I'm just enjoying the week. And if they call me and they need me, then I'm ready to go.
How do you focus, like, on the minds where you actually think if this was to move forward, like, it could be one guy, it could be the other. They have different styles. I know you adapt to the game and all that type of stuff. But, like, this isn't an easy situation if you did get the call.
I think for me, it's... After the Shavkat fight, the biggest thing I learned was I'm better than I think I am. So for me, I need to have confidence that I can do anything I want to anyone I face whenever I want. And that's why I have this ability to take fights on 3 weeks' notice on back-to-back times. This is the reason why I'm able to do things that other fighters can't. One, in here, bulletproof. But I'm better than I actually think I am. That's the benefit. Like, I'm so much more talented than I'm aware I am. And every time I step into the octagon against these dangerous opponents, I'm able to beat them with ease. So this weekend, if I'm needed, I will go in there no matter who it's against, whether it be Jack or Belal, and I will find a way to win if I'm needed.
People would look at you, before that fight, you said you learned you're better than you thought you were. People would look at you and wouldn't think you're a guy short on confidence, you're undefeated at the time, all that stuff. So, like, what did you think you were at that time?
At that time, I knew how talented I was, but I didn't know just the extent. You know, when you go in and you face the scariest man in the division on 3 weeks' notice, it gets a lot of people thinking, oh, is he good enough? Is he good enough? Is he this? I already knew that. Mentally, in my heart, my soul, I knew how good I was. But I went in there and I proved to the world just how dangerous I am. And then I did it again on 3 weeks' notice. And if I'm needed, I'll do it again on 2 weeks' notice. I want to be the best in the world. And to be the best in the world, you need to beat the best opponents. And you need to face the toughest opponents with the most dangerous weapons. And you look at Shavkat, he's finished 18. In 2 fights, I finished a 28-fight finish streak.
Yeah,
Shavkat was 18-0, 18 finishes. In his last 10 fights, Carlos Praches, 10 knockouts. I finished a 28-fight finish streak. And I was very close to winning both of them.
Yeah. So you got to get confidence from something like that.
And when you're fighting the scariest guys, you realize how good you are. And I tell you now, Carlos Praches was more dangerous in that octagon from an energy point of view when he stood across me than Shavkat was. Arguably than anyone I've ever stood across from. That guy was there to fight. His energy was there to kill me. And I could sense that. But I just knew I was fast. I knew I was able to beat him. And they bring out certain elements in your personality that prove to you that I'm better than I know I am. I'm better than I think I am. And it gives you more confidence. And I've always spoke about consistency and wanting to be active. Because that activity, I believe, is one of the most underrated things in the sport.
Have you ever done 2 weight cuts like this close together, 2 weeks apart?
Weight cuts don't mean anything to me. I'm super prepared. I'm a professional. There's not many in the game that I believe are more professional, have a better approach than I do. It's not going to faze me, and if I'm needed, I'll be there.
And at what point do you let go? Is it when you only see those 2 men in the octagon?
Yep. Look, we've seen situations where guys weigh in and then something completely out of the norm happens on the night before or the morning of. You know, we've had back cramps or we've had like even cuts and all these little things. They happen. Do you know, it's a part of the sport. Love it or hate it, it's part of the sport. Until I walk in and see those 2 men, I tell you now, I will be bringing my suitcase to the fight night with me just in case anything happens. But yeah, until they step in that octagon, then I will let it all go.
For sure. And we had Belal and Jack both in here. I think they spoke pretty highly of you, during their scrums. But Belal said, he thought you're here because, as you've said, you stepped up. You're the loudest guy. You speak out. You put your place there. Is it and we asked what'll be next. He said it could be any of these guys. He's open to fighting whoever. What's your confidence level? 3 months, 4 months from now, you are fighting Belal or Jack.
I think that's from Belal's point of view. I think he's always spoke about how he knows I'm the toughest test for him stylistically. He's always spoke about he knows how intelligent I am on my fight IQ. He's already knocked out Sean Brady. Doesn't need to fight Sean Brady again. Do you know what I mean? Sean Brady's number 1. That fight's not interesting. Do you know what I mean? Half of the stadium was empty for the fight against Leon. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to want to see that. I think the biggest fight you can make right now is Ian Machado Garry versus Belal Muhammad if he wins. And we do it in Chicago. We do it in his hometown. We sell out the stadium, of which I'll do most of the heavy lifting on that, Belal. Don't you worry. I'll sell it out for you, right? But we do that because that's the biggest fight. Do you know what I mean? And everyone knows it. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people, like I've got 5 wins over top 15 guys at the moment right now. I'm the one showing that anywhere, anyone, anytime mentality, and I'm just afraid of no one. And I think when you look at Belal and what he's done, he wants to beat the best. He wants to beat these guys that have the best resumes, the best performances, the guys that are going out there and garnering attention from the UFC fan base. There is no one better in the welterweight division right now at doing that than me. So if Belal wants the biggest fight, then he should be fighting me next. And I think he's going to win this weekend, and I don't see any reason why it's not me versus Belal for the belt in August or whenever the card in Chicago is.
Yeah, it's poetic that, you know, all these welterweights here striving for greatness, and we're in George St. Pierre's backyard, you know, where he's made all his bones, so many big fights here. Do you think about that at all? And I guess, you know, we've asked all these other guys about GSP. What's your, I guess, like, relationship, desire to chase and surpass his legacy, all those things?
I don't have a desire to chase his legacy. For me, a lot of people talk about this when they mention Conor and stuff. They're like, are you trying to follow in his footsteps? It's like, no. Conor and GSP did their own things. And no one's ever going to follow in their footpaths. You know what I mean? They might have made life a little bit easier for us. You know what I mean? When you look at like a Mike Mallet, for example, as a Canadian wanting to be one of the best in the UFC, you know, there's going to be obvious correlations to him and GSP. And likewise with me and Conor. But we have different paths, we have different opponents, it's a different time. Do you know what I mean? I would love to be in that Mount Rushmore of one of the greatest of all time. That I've said that. Legacy for me is everything. I want to be remembered as one of the greatest welterweights to ever live, one of the greatest fighters to ever step on this planet. And for me, that means I need to beat the next best guy, the next best guy. I need to get that belt, and I need to dominate and run through the division twice over if needs be. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm excited to see what it is, but George St. Pierre will always be George St. Pierre. He will always be that special icon, that iconic figure that we all remember. And he will be special regardless of whatever I do in my career or whatever. When Kamaru Usman was coming up, people were comparing them, but it's a different time. And those people deserve their flowers, and they will always deserve their flowers. But if I do what I say I'm going to do, then, and what I believe I can do in here, then I will definitely be remembered as one of the greatest ever do it.
And especially if things turn out your way this weekend. So I guess just last question here. Over the next 72 hours, if your phone does ring, you pick it up, you say yes, and you go in and you win the fight. As you said, we saw this in January with Moicano. He lost in the first round. You go in there and win. Where would this rank among the greatest moments, the greatest stories that we've seen in the sport?
I think you're talking about the biggest heist that the UFC's ever had. The biggest heist, you know, back-to-back short notice fights against 3 of the most dangerous, because regardless of what person it is, whether it be Jack or Belal, you're fighting one of the most dangerous guys in the division. And I'll go out there and I'll win that world title, and it'll be the biggest heist in UFC history.
Love it. Appreciate the time, Ian, and we're excited to see how this next few days unfolds.
Me too.